I feel like we get stuck and that diminishes our happiness in part because of conditioning we go through from day one. Well-intentioned people say this is what you need to do to succeed. Start to internalize those, and I see each of those messages as kind of a shovel that helps us dig this hole. We kind of apply this overlay to everybody the same. Succeed in school, make good friends, stay away from drugs, go to college, and we just assume that this is going to work for everybody. And it doesn't. It doesn't work for everybody. It works for very few people. And the few people it works for are supposedly people like me. And then even people like me who walk that line perfectly wake up one day in their 40s and say, holy crap, this isn't happy. This isn't what happy was supposed to be. I did all the right things and I'm not happy. So then you go back and you realize that you're in a hole. You've just been in the hole so long and your vision is diminished. You don't even see or realize that you're in a hole until one day you wake up and you're suffocating.
I had reached this point in my own life where externally from the outside, it looked to be like my life was going really well. But I found myself waking up every single day and just doing fine, right? Just doing okay. I found myself going to a place of stress, uncertainty, self-doubt really, really easily. And I really didn't understand it because my entire life I had been sold that you work hard, you get what you want, and then you'll be happy, right? And here I was, and internally I wasn't feeling the happiness I thought I should be at that point. I felt very guilty about that, of course, because I knew objectively I had so many things in my life, and I really didn't understand why my brain was going to this place of worry, self-doubt, stress, what seemed to be like almost automatically. And I had this crazy idea. I thought to myself, what if I can go to every state in America, all 50 states, and find other people from all walks of life, all income levels, all backgrounds, that have reached this consistent level of happiness, where they're waking up, they're feeling excited for their life, they're feeling energized. Yes, of course, life is not ideal all of the time, right? Everyone has tough times, everyone goes through things, but finding the people that have reached this internal happiness, that regardless of external circumstances, they're waking up and they're happy people. What are they doing day to day to create this happiness in their own life? I have never made a documentary before. I have zero filmmaking experience. I bought a camera, a tripod, and a microphone. They're going to be coming with me in my car as I drive across the country. So the audio and the lighting might not be the best you've ever seen in a film or a documentary, but bear with me because the stories and the people you're going to meet are incredible human beings. All right, I'm about to head out on American Happiness. 50 states, couple months. We'll see how it goes. My first stop on the American Happiness journey was New York City. In New York, I chatted with so many incredible people, but one that really stuck out and just lit up the room with energy and excitement was Joe Cruz.
Born and raised in Harlem. It wasn't easy. Not New Harlem. Everyone loves to live in New Harlem. I was old. People steal sneakers off your feet Harlem. Like where I grew up, people would ask, what size sneakers are those? And the proper response was not yours, mother. It wasn't, hey, I'm a size 11, but then somebody might take your sneakers off your feet. So I had gone through all that stuff growing up. So I was forced to endure. And it got me to just a tougher mindset where I saw people being poor. Single mother raised me. We didn't have all the food we wanted growing up. I didn't realize how poor I was until I got older. My mother never let me know that. It could always be worse. So we're living in a country where 99% of things you want to do, you can't do. It's on you. But most people have an excuse. There's a reason not to do something. It's cold outside. My girlfriend left me. My money isn't right. I don't believe in that. If you don't do something, you didn't do it. Don't blame anybody else for your problems.
So what would you recommend for someone who they want to get to where you're at?
Well, first of all, you are your only option. If you work a 40-hour week job, which is most people's excuse, I work too much. Okay. If you don't spend at least 1 hour a day trying to do something, you can't blame anybody else. I like to say complacency kills. If you're happy where you're at, you're dying slow. If you make $12 an hour, try to make $12.50. Try to make $13. If you're living with your parents, try to get your own place. Just do something toward it. People spend all that time getting down on themselves and why they can't. Use that just doing something. Even if you just text a friend, I have a question. They might have an amazing answer. You need perspective from other people. Most people just beat themselves up way too much. I have a major rule in my actual home: no negative energy. If you have a major problem, you come in upset, we'll talk about it. We'll get over it. But we're not going to sit there for 2-3 hours and you're sulking and I'm sulking. That's not a thing. I don't give a damn. Because first of all, we're in a home. We're not in the streets, homeless. It could be way, way, way worse. But I try to exude that energy. I don't know anybody more positive than me.
Along with documenting and recording all of these amazing people across America, I also was scheduled to speak at colleges and universities throughout the country to share the knowledge of how to create happiness in your own life. One of the colleges I stopped at was Sarah Lawrence in New York, where I met Esty and Lucy.
I think losing someone and seeing how life is so fleeting and cut short, it makes me every day feel this gratitude for life and a gratitude for the people around me and for myself. And so I find that happiness was not trying to reach a certain place in life, because I just have this constant reminder that death can happen anytime, which sounds really morbid, but in a way it kind of pushes me to make every day count and make every day a day where I feel proud of myself and proud of who I am. And I think that's what kind of drives my happiness, is knowing that every day I'm living it with intention and love and compassion, and or at least trying to.
The reason I came to Philly is to speak at Temple, but unfortunately it's supposed to snow today and they canceled or they closed down the entire campus, so that will not be happening. And then I double booked today to speak at Maryland as well, and they also closed their entire campus, so that speech will not be happening. You know, I'm gonna still head to College Park in Maryland today. I try to not let things bother me that are out of my control, so we'll see if it snows a lot. Looks like it might snow a little bit, but you never do know. So it turns out it did snow quite a bit. I walked into this co-working space in Maryland and absolutely no one was there, so I spent some time catching up, editing some videos, and just recuperating a little bit. After staying in Maryland for a few nights, I headed south. Charleston, South Carolina was one of the places I'd always wanted to visit, so I spent some time taking in the scenes and exploring. Next up on my interview schedule was Austin Shuck from Lexington, Kentucky.
Like 7 years ago, my house was blown away by a tornado, and I thought that I lost my family. Obviously, my whole house was blown away, so I thought I lost everything there. And I didn't really know what was going on, but I went to my house, and my house was gone, and I thought my family was in it. So I thought my family was dead for like 12 hours. I was a very active leader in my community. I tried to be very positive, and so I knew at that moment I had to step up. But it took a really big toll on me after. Fell back on drinking. I was in college, so that was an easy thing to do. I stopped working out, stopped being active, and I kind of just started feeling sorry for myself. And my grandpa died like 2 days after that, completely unrelated, and it was just like, you know, it was a lot to take on. And then I broke my arm, and I gained like 100 more pounds, and was just like, you know, I was stuck. So I was in a car wreck in February, and it really messed my head up. But at the same time, I was given an opportunity to kind of start with a clean slate, that I want to help other people realize that they don't have to be stuck like I was, and that if something happens, that they should use that not as a as a way to weigh yourself down. Don't use the bricks that life's going to hand you, because you're going to get handed bad stuff by life. Use that stuff to build something new and an opportunity, and that's what I've done with it. Finding gratitude in like little moments in life will help you find extreme happiness. It's almost like a superpower. Yeah, you're going to find temporary happiness in a new jacket or a new pair of shoes, and they're going to look fresh on you and look cool, but I've found that the moments in life are where you're going to find, like I said, the true currency, and that's where you find happiness. And that's my favorite kind of currency, is happiness, because it's so abundant that everyone can have it. It doesn't matter if you're the poorest person or you're the richest person, but it's entirely up to you if you are rich in happiness or not. Nobody else can control it besides yourself.
Good morning, everyone. I'm about to drive to the Smoky Mountains. Super excited for that. Then I'll be swinging by Friendsville, Tennessee to do an interview on a farm there. So you guys have very good perspectives on life. How did that develop? Have you always been like this, or has it developed?
No.
Tell us.
Take a deep breath. It's been years of work.
You just been through a lot of stuff, and I mean, like for me, my mom passed away young, so I joined the military. I left home, and I didn't want to go back. So I did whatever I had to do to stay in Florida.
Now, 7 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 3 cervical cancer and had a surgery, and something went wrong that we're still not sure of, and I went into a coma. And so he was basically told, try not to tear up, he was basically told that it was up to me to survive.
Wow.
And it was really, really hard. It's hard on me because of my family, not me. I was in a coma. I didn't know what was going on. And so anyway, when I woke up from that, I woke up with this strong urge. I hadn't painted, I hadn't drawn, I hadn't done anything artistic in over 20 years.
Wow.
And when I woke up from that, I had to just like everything, draw, paint, everything. And I was working a very stressful job. And I told him, I can't do this anymore. I want to try the art. And he was like, let's do it.
She was traveling a lot and took a major pay cut
To stay home.
home. And I moved in, and then 1 month later, I got laid off.
Yeah.
So
We've been through a lot together.
I even got to the point where, because I was looking for anything, I went back to an old company that I worked in St. Augustine to detail airplanes, to wash airplanes that I built.
It's funny, when I first got diagnosed, I tried to make him leave. I picked a fight because I knew what he went through with his mom. His mom died of lung cancer. And so I knew what he went through, and I knew how hard it was on him. And I was like, this cannot be happening to this poor man. You know, how does this happen to somebody twice in a lifetime? And so I tried to make him leave, and he wouldn't leave.
Stubborn.
So, but I think a little of me rubbed off on him as far as the, not to be so pessimistic, you know, because even though all this has happened, I think I don't believe it's for a reason. I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that everything happens for a reason, because there's no reason for a lot of the stuff that happens. But you can either get better or you can get better. And I'm not going to get better no matter what. But I don't know. We go to the grocery store and you see so many people that are they look angry or just sad. And I just want to give them a hug. I mean, what would make this better? But then there's a lot of people that are like awesome, and yeah, can we have some more of that? I mean, remember that day I walked around the grocery store and smiled at everybody until that old man finally broke and smiled at me back.
Yeah.
Everybody, yeah, I'll just, hey! And finally this old man who was just like, he broke into a smile. When you're feeling down, doing for somebody else, it can lift you faster than anything. Even when you're broke. Even when you think you can't lift your head out the bed. I mean, depressed, whatever is hitting you, doing something for somebody else and seeing their joy, that just can elevate you like nothing else.
I think a lot of people don't realize that something really so small could be so big.
My friend who I'm staying with in Iowa called me last night, and he was telling me about how they've set the record since like 1976 for the most snow this year. So that's good. I told him, oh, well, I didn't bring any boots. So we're hoping the snow will melt before that. From Iowa, we headed over the border to Nebraska, where we explored the city of Omaha and went to a game. All right, I'm here with Blake. Hello. How's it going?
Hi.
And we're going to Omaha. And do you have any fun facts?
Omaha, Nebraska. It's in Nebraska, and it's by Lincoln. And Lincoln is home of the Big Reds, Nebraska Cornhuskers. And on game day, it is the third largest city in New York, or in Nebraska. Oh my God, I fucked that up.
Are there any other fun facts? Anything else that you think that people should know?
2/3 of Nebraska's population is within 30 miles a year.
We're in Omaha.
We're in Omaha.
Okay.
And I don't have anything else.
That's all we got about
My
Nebraska.
face is red. But
The Ball Blue Demons and your Merlin Blue Jays.
Throughout my time in Iowa, I felt so incredibly welcomed. I really felt like I was back home, and it was this nice break from being by myself for a lot of the time. From Iowa, I headed to Kansas City, where I chatted with Risa, who we met at the beginning.
From my perspective, that goes back from day one. You know, when you ask Susie what she wants to be when she grows up, and she says an astronaut, and you say, well, bless your heart, that right there is sending a message to Susie that the chances are she's not going to be doing what she thinks is going to make her happy. So our whole definition of what is success, what does it look like, and how you achieve it, I think that's really what's hindering how people are able to achieve their dreams and experience a sense of happiness. What do you value? What brings you happiness? And most of them have never even thought about that before. I mean, I probably didn't until my mid-40s. When they think about it, they know what they value. Adventure, helping other people, intellectual challenges. And if we can get them to see that they're doing that somewhere in their life, they've got to, there's something that they're doing right. And we get them to focus on that and grow those experiences so that they can overlay the rest of their lives. That's how you start pulling out those hairs of previous messages and the real you gets revealed. Goals are great, and achievement and recognition is wonderful, but I can tell you firsthand that if what you're doing for recognition, then it's never going to be enough, and you're always going to be disconcerted, right? For an individual to be happy, you have to do what is true to you. And if you're guiding your life based upon some external message that you've internalized that's driving your definition of success, and you're doing it because this is what's going to make mom happy, or because you need another trophy, or because no one's going to love you unless you're making six figures, then you're never going to be happy. And that's a real tenuous approach to base your life upon. Happiness, of course, comes from the inside.
Happiness is completely internally based. If you don't know what your purpose is, if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, start there. Start to ask yourself those questions. And it's not something that you're going to be able to define right away. It's not something that's going to necessarily come to you overnight, although it may when you start reflecting on it. But if you can't answer that question, then you need to start there. We shouldn't be setting goals related to happiness. We shouldn't be saying, okay, I'm going to be happy when. You need to understand that happiness lies in the process and in making those habitual changes and in just that slow change in direction of your life. And so finding what motivates you, what drives you, what type of things you love to do, and more importantly, finding a way that you can have the most positive impact on other people, because I truly believe that that's what life is about, is that positive impact we can have on other human beings. Mm-hmm. Try to find what makes you happy that allows you to positively impact others, and start to take actions that bring you there on a regular basis. I think that's really the key to finding happiness and finding satisfaction in your own life.
If you can be happy in the worst situation life can throw from you, and there's no reason why you can't be. I mean, yeah, life is going to suck, and you can recognize that life sucks, but you can also recognize that your perception plays a big role in that. And so for somebody else to validate you and say, yeah, I see that you're depressed, I see that you're stressed, I get what you're going through, at least it peels off one layer that's keeping you from happiness, to where you say there's something wrong with me, or I'm not good enough, or nobody understands me, or I'm crazy, or I'm way too different. Because otherwise, many of us just get in our heads and we stew about and focus only on what makes us different. And we shame ourselves over that rather than glorifying the fact that we're different.
I headed down south after Reese's interview to Arkansas and Oklahoma, where I made an interesting discovery. Okay, so I just spent about an hour driving around trying to find a welcome to Oklahoma sign. No dice, apparently, in Oklahoma. This is the border, though. This dirt road. Yep. Throughout the whole trip, although I loved meeting all these new people and exploring new places, I really, really missed my friends. And I was so excited because I did this weird route so that they could come visit me for St. Patrick's Day in Nashville. All right, we're here in Nashville, and we're going to be asking everyone a particular question about their hat and about their life. Becca, is this the best day of your life? Best day of my life. After an awesome and very tiring weekend in Nashville, I kept heading south through Alabama towards Florida. I am in Pensacola Beach, Florida. I am in Mississippi, and who would have thought there is this gorgeous beach? Scenic route, opted for it. Up until now, I was booking Airbnbs and places to stay a little last minute, but I'm finally getting ahead of it a little bit, which feels much better. I've been getting a lot of bugs just flying into my windshield, dying on it, and getting stuck to it. So I've really been going at it, getting those off at the gas station. Just a fun fact for everyone along those lines. So I'm excited to head to Nolens, and I'll keep you guys posted. Welcome to New Orleans. We're here in Louisiana, just spoke at Tulane. Some common themes from the interview so far really are that the people that are the happiest, they've gone through difficult things, right? They've gone through unfortunate situations, but they're really now doing what they truly want to be doing, not just what they think they should be doing. They've shifted their mindset to a place of looking for the good in their life, the positivity, the opportunity, rather than going into this state of complaining, of negativity, of stress. So those are the two common themes. It's been really, really good to see. From Louisiana, going to be heading to Texas, and then up through to the Grand Canyon, to California, all the way up, and then make my way back to Boston. So American happiness is alive and well. We're going to bump. What
Frenchman
Street? Frenchman Street. Throughout the whole filming process, I did a lot of formal interviews where I was sitting down one-on-one with people. But I also talked to hundreds of other people in informal interviews where I would be out at a bar or a restaurant or even a market. Monroe, did I say it right?
Yes, you did.
Yes, okay. Any thoughts for the world?
I do have some thoughts for the world. If this were the last thing anyone ever heard from me, it would be to never give up hope. That this life is yours and for you to deal with, but also it's not for you to deal with alone. Spread your love, spread your smiles, and make sure your frequency is in tune with yourself. And never forget.
I love it.
I love it.
After filming a few interviews in Texas, I headed out on the longest drive yet. My brother and his girlfriend were already in Las Vegas, ready to meet me and to celebrate life a little bit. So I had to book it there and drove about 16 hours in one day. As you can imagine, I got very used to driving for extensive amounts of time throughout this journey. And I found around the 6-hour mark, I started to get a little bit loopy. So, as we now know, had a lot of time in the car today, and there was a one point where Tarzan soundtrack, Phil Collins came on. magical moments. I didn't have the rights to the song, but here is a silent video of me singing it. Beautiful desert here, and we got about 4 more to go till Flagstaff. Pretty much living my dream today. I'm at the Grand Canyon. It is just glorious. All right, made it to Vegas.
Let's go.
Woo! Yeah. A common theme that kept coming up time and time again was happiness is internal. You have to choose it for yourself. And for myself, I had looked towards the relationships I was in, the things I bought, and the goals I accomplished to really validate and bring in that happiness to my own life. And so I started to shift my perspective on happiness. So we're here in Pacific Beach, San Diego. Thina is here.
Hello.
How's your day going?
It's great. Who doesn't like being on the beach?
Yes, we're right in front of the beach. It is glorious. It's a good life.
It's a good life.
Do you guys remember Monroe from Louisiana? Turns out he actually lives in California. He was just visiting Louisiana. So I was able to sit down with Monroe and get a few more thoughts on his perspective on happiness and how to create it.
You have to make a different decision. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Whatever it is that you want to change it. If you can't change it, change the way you think about it. I get it. I've been in literally jail. I cannot leave this room. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. Sometimes you are in the situation you are in. However, you are not bound by the walls around you. You are bound by the walls in your mind. You break down those walls, you expand. We are chained by whatever delusions we have of negativity, which do not actually exist. Fear does not exist. People are so worried about the sky falling, but when it actually falls, they're like, oh, well, let's just figure it out. You have to assess where you're at and enjoy where you're at, because you can only be right here, right now. That's the only time that exists, right now. Slow down, breathe, and ask yourself, is it really that bad, you know? Or, better yet, how good is it? When something doesn't go your way, or you trip, or you fall, don't beat yourself up. It happens. You are human. Life is life. That does not stop you on your journey because you tripped on a pebble. Do not major in minor things. Major in major things. That's the easiest thing we do. How did that person just perceive me that I just met, right? Mm-hmm. So make yourself the third person, and you will be surprised what you find out.
I'm not Sarah anymore, but I'm gonna meet me, and like, what would I think of me? Like, would I think like, damn, that's someone like I want to spend my time with, or like, she is super energetic. Taking yourself out of your own body and like meeting yourself and being that person that you would want to meet within yourself.
With conducting all these interviews, certain themes and words and phrases came up over and over again. And it was crazy because on complete different sides of the country, people from different backgrounds and different circumstances were saying the exact same things on how to create happiness in their own life. Yesterday I was at the edge of America. Today, literally at the edge of America. Look at this. Crazy, crazy. Just a few seconds ago, it was torrentially downpouring here. So driving, whoops, almost just fell. Driving through the cliffs in torrential downpour was interesting. I'm heading to Bixby Bridge and then gonna be going up to Oakland.
You know, coming from Central America, being a young kid dealing with war and seeing really bad things makes you develop a sense of warrior spirit. With what I saw, you know, with what happened to my family, I just figured, you know, I just have to keep moving. And once you realize you have to move forward, whatever the obstacles are in your life, I think that always gives you like a sense of peace, that you're not always going to be the same. I always look for a way, no matter what, you know, darkness comes in my life, I always look for a positive outlook in everything that I do.
Maybe someone in your life is kind of bringing you down, pulling you down. How do you get out of that situation?
You either get rid of them or either you tell them. You have to, because ultimately at the end of the day, the happiness is on you, nobody else. And that's how I, like with coworkers, if they're negative, I just tune them out. I'm happy, I laugh, I work. If it's negative and negative and negative, it's never going to change. And the only, say people, I want to change, I want to be happy, I want to do this. What are you doing about it?
So I was feeling pretty depleted today, kind of for the first time in the trip, that just feeling beat. And I had an interview with Veronica this morning, and she said to be with nature. And so I decided to take her advice. I'm sitting on this stump that I found here. Just climbed up on this steep hill here to get to this stump. And it was like lighted by the sunlight.
Arrive at Soda Springs Road.
Okay, so as you can see, this is the Jeep. This is the snow. It's insane. It has to be like, look at this pole here. It's crazy high. That's the Jeep. This is the snow, all right? So I was heading to Lake Tahoe, and they had to shut down the highway due to an avalanche. So I've turned back around and I'm gonna go back the way I came. So. Yesterday I went to dinner and the redwoods weren't really on the route I was gonna go, so I thought, you know, I'll come back at some point in my life and see them. And it was the weirdest thing because I'm sitting at the bar eating my pizza, and a guy sits down next to me and, you know, makes a comment about how much garlic is on my pizza. I got garlic as a topping, kind of a bold move. Turns out he's this homicide detective and he's in town going to a prison near the Redwood Park here. And we're in Oregon, but the park was just over the border in California. And he starts talking about the redwoods and about how incredible they were. And I'd always wanted to see the redwoods, and so I took it as a sign that this random guy sat down next to me, started talking to me about it, had to come out and see them while I was here on the West Coast. This park is insane. The tree trunks themselves has to be at least 20 feet wide. I made my way up the coast of California, ultimately ending up in Salt Lake City, where I was waiting for my friend Patrick, who was flying in from Boston.
We're reaching
We're here.
we're reaching that like 3 hours in.
Yeah,
we're
like reaching the delusion. I was telling Patrick about this. The delusion sets in. 3 hours is kind of low. I would say delusion sets in around 6-7 hours.
Fair. But
6-7 hour mark. So yeah, we're driving from Salt Lake City to Steamboat Springs, Colorado. I met a guy in Idaho who said, go check out a hot spring. And then going to Cheyenne, Wyoming after that. Still in Utah, okay? What? But at the border of Utah, we're gonna spin around. That's Colorado, baby. Here he is. Okay, now we're here. We're in Colorado. Let's go. Patrick has told us that he will be attempting a backflip on this very ground. And it's a magical moment. We're gonna pan out as the shoes get prepared. There's Utah looking real good. After witnessing an incredible backflip, we headed to Steamboat Springs. We just went in the hot springs here in Colorado, and the hot springs are like 90 degrees, 100 degrees?
They're less than 104, but they're hot.
And right next to it, it's like this phenomenon where it's like ice cold.
It's like freezing cold.
Freezing, like
Absolutely
30-degree water.
So of course,
we decided to do an ice plunge. And
followed immediately by
a hot plunge. And it was very jolting. We're both getting cold plunge pools back in Boston. I'm out of breath. The plunge did take a toll though. The shock of the body. We also tried to capture some B-roll, which went okay.
Like clean up your stuff, right? Like
Am I in this? What's this angle?
B-roll though. It's supposed to be like super casual, right?
Is it good lighting though?
No, it's
yeah, but we're creating a stellar documentary.
Terrible lighting.
Yeah, Patrick. You need to get it together.
Now it's much better.
Let's turn on the light. Should we turn the light?
Oh,
is there even a light? There's no light. Is it fine? How dark is this? Because B-roll is actually calculated.
Is
right?
it?
Yes.
Ah.
So this is it. This is the magic. Maybe just film me like looking out, smiling.
So B-roll's calculated, huh? That B-roll was just like...
What? Shit? That's what's in there. I can't wait to watch that video.
I thought it's just like whatever's behind, like just the.
Yeah, but it's like we're not. Yeah, but it's like, oh my god.
I'm dying.
All right, let's.
I'm living. I'm fucking living. All right, let's go in. Wow, great B-roll.
And with our B-roll attempt behind us, we headed on our way.
It's the end of November. I'm traveling in North Idaho. I have hair down to here, a beard out to here, and a black eye out to here from my last game of full contact pool. That's what I called it, okay? I get pulled over by a police officer, and it's interesting, as they're clicking the cuffs on me to take me to jail, in that moment, there was a thought that went through my head, okay? And the thought was, I can't go to jail. It's Sunday. Tomorrow's Monday night, it's Monday Night Football at Buck and Edna's, it's my turn to buy. So I'm planning in that moment my next drunk. I'm planning in that moment my next activity that's perpetuating the problematic life I'm living. And so what happened is there was another thought that followed that. It said, this is insane, it has to stop. And that was the turning point for me. That was like a moment of clarity, right? But it was a struggle because, I mean, the emotional, like when you get off of drugs and alcohol, you think like I lost my best friend, right? And there's an emotional disconnect that like you're burying somebody that you love, right? You're never gonna have that relationship ever again. That's kind of how it feels sometimes, So I was blessed. I ran into people that, they had straightened their lives out and they were willing to help, but their attitude was, you're the one drowning. We're in the life raft. Right, I'll reach out. We'll help you, and if it takes more than one, we'll pull you in. But if you start pulling back, we'll let you go. And it was so, maybe I guess the term might be tough love, but it was real.
you know, and from that I've been able to live an amazing life. You know, it's limited association with what's bringing you down. I mean, like for me, there were certain family members, right, that I had to like practice limited association until I could get myself right, you know. And I think everybody has that. We have those influences in our lives that probably aren't taking us in the best direction. If you're spending time with people that are complaining about their job and complaining about the economy and complaining about politics and all this other stuff that's going on that wants your attention, then you're gonna start modeling that. But if you're running with people that say, look, I see the problem, but here's how we can make it better. I see this as the challenge, but here's what we could do differently. And start asking better questions of ourselves. I was talking to somebody just the other day in the clinic, and she was struggling with a child. And I said, well, how do you talk to yourself about your child? Well, what do you mean? Well, what is your internal dialogue with you regarding your child? Well, I asked myself, why he behaves so terribly? And I said, well, why don't you change the question? Because the quality of your life is based on the quality of questions you ask yourself, not others, but what you ask of you. I had to do it with my own son, my oldest son. I asked myself, you know, instead of, well, why is he doing that? Saying, well, what can I do to influence a better outcome for him, right? I had to practice this with me in my own relationships. And the more I do, it becomes like second nature. It just becomes a new habit, right? And that's what guides us, is our habits. You know, you can't think your way into clarity about life. I can't think my way into a clear direction. I have to act my way into it. I have to do the work and then gain the experience that serves me and others. And that truly is where happiness lies.
I'm at the Devil's Tower, which is this thing right there. Apparently it's America's favorite national monument here in Wyoming. I'm a little out of it, gotta get a coffee here. 6 p.m. coffee yet again. About an hour from Montana. All right, I've made it here to the Wyoming border. It's also Camp Devon. Fun fact. And gonna walk over to Montana now. Such a lovely stroll to Montana. And here we are in Montana. There it is. So I just drove, hopefully you guys can see that sign, and just drove across the entire state of Wyoming, crossing over, stopping in for a little bit, and then heading to South Dakota tonight to stay around Mount Rushmore, check that out in the morning, and head through the Badlands and then towards east. As I traveled across the country, I couldn't help but notice that every person I spoke with had gone through some external circumstance that was less than ideal, right? But I wanted to look into the science and the research behind how much do these external things, like our income levels, our material possessions, our relationships, our location, how much does this actually impact our happiness levels? And what I found was really, really interesting. Only 10% of your happiness is determined by external factors. This is why if you've ever bought a new jacket or gotten a promotion at your job, you go back to feeling pretty much the same way after a couple hours or a couple days. The majority of your happiness is determined by how your brain is processing the world, yourself, and your circumstances. This is why someone who's gone through really difficult times can be the most happy and generous person you know. And on the flip side of that, the richest, most successful person can be miserable and burnt out all the time. How you're viewing your life and your circumstances can either be positive or negative, but the good news is it's entirely up to you. Happiness, as we've been hearing throughout the country, comes from within. It is internal, and it's a choice. And I was never taught that growing up, right? I was taught that you work hard, you get what you want, then you'll be happy, right? It's this external thing. And so I started implementing the tactics and teachings I had learned through doing this research into my own life. And it was incredible, the impact it had almost immediately, right? I went from waking up feeling stressed out and worried to feeling excited and energized for the day ahead. beautiful today after driving from Minnesota. I'm here today in Milwaukee. That's just gorgeous. I'm right here by the water and feeling so much better after taking a walk, after putting on some pump-up tunes. It's amazing how much those small things can change your mood, change your day. Just to get your body moving, to change your state a little bit, helps so much. From Milwaukee, I headed to Michigan, where I chatted with Jorge Martinez.
Yeah, I was in a very depressive state. Ever since I started working in the office, I gained about 30 pounds, which was fine. I was good with that. But then, when I got I felt all depressed, I even gained another 15 pounds. And then I would look at myself, I'm like, that's not me. In the mirror, So then it was like I told you, I was in my cubicle, because I work in a cubicle. And I don't know, I just looked up and I was like, oh God, help me. And then, break comes up and I pop on the YouTube and some videos pop out, right away. And then that video popped out that it was about the 7 chakras explained in a cartoon. And since I recognized the cartoon, I watched it. I closed my eyes and I just did everything it was telling me to say in my mind for those 9 minutes. And after those 9 minutes were over, I was like, immediately I felt something better, like right here. Yeah. Immediately, I felt like a weight had fallen off me, and I felt good. And then the very next day, I just got up and I just knew what I had to do. I was like, I'm not gonna be in a depressive state anymore. I'm gonna stay busy, because if I'm feeling depressed, I gotta move. The steps that they told you to do were certain questions that you had to ask yourself. I think the most important one, you had to forgive yourself, honestly and truly, if you really meant it.
In order for me to love my own life and be happy, I have to forgive myself about the mistakes of the past, right? I can't be hating what shaped me.
Forgive yourself for any wrongdoings that you may have done in the past, that you did it purposely or not purposely, that it happens. And it's a learning process also, so forgive yourself for doing that if you really mean it and you're not going to do it again. I think that was the biggest part that made me just switch my mind. I was like, yes, I do forgive myself, and I need to better myself. And then it just happened the next day.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, I felt great that whole day.
Yeah.
Really good. And then I slept so good. That was another one. I slept so good. So good that night.
Did you have trouble sleeping before?
Yes, I would wake up in the middle of the night sometimes, I'd move around. No, that night I laid down, and the way I laid down was the way I woke up. Awesome. Didn't even move.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was just, and then that's when I got up and I was like, all right, time to make some changes.
I love that. And what were those changes you made when you were feeling in a much
first of
better
all,
state?
what I had to do was definitely lose those 15 pounds, because that was not me no more. I could not run. I was doing horrible in the soccer league, and people were starting to catch on. So what I did, I was like, gotta work out, gotta exercise. So I started exercising, breathing. That was something very important I had to learn to do. Just breathe. Just take time to not do anything but breathe. And it just calms your world. And I started worrying less about things, and things got better. Before that day, when I was all depressed and everything, something would go wrong, and I'd complain about it, and something worse would happen after I'd complain about it, And even with my family, we'd get into a lot of arguments, and it's like the arguments beat you.
Yeah, that's amazing that it's also rubbed off on, you said, your family, where...
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
That's crazy too. Like now, if I would complain, and everybody would start complaining, everybody would complain. But now, if anything happens, and if somebody says something negative, I'll say something positive. It triggers everybody else to be like, yeah, why are you thinking that, And I see that definitely now that I'm more positive. There's been a lot less arguments with our family and everything.
As I drove home to Boston, I kept replaying the experience in my mind. And there was one question that I asked at the end of every single interview, regardless of where I was in the country or who I was talking to. If someone watching this wants to be happier, what's a good first step? The response was overwhelming. Make a change. It could be in the way you're thinking, it could be in the way you start your day or the way you act, but you've got to decide to make that change.
The first thing is realizing that you have power. You have to understand that you really do have the power as a human being to affect your happiness and decide to be happy. No, you don't always have control over how life happens to you, but you always have power to respond. I think that's why America is a great country, is because we have real people who deal with real issues, who acknowledge, no, I have power to do something about this, and then they go try it, and they go do it.
Gratitude is a superpower. Positive energy is contagious. The small things really are the big things. Forgiving yourself is powerful. The way you're viewing your life is your life. And you can choose happiness each and every day, regardless of what's happening around you. So the real question is, are you going to?